Hey, greetings everybody. It's GleeCon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we walked around Ironforge with a dwarf hunter. We explored. I did at the end after it was over, since my pet left me. I didn't realize they would get so unhappy they would abandon you. I did go out and get another one. I also went and fished for a while. You cannot fish in Ironforge. Another thing I learned off camera is in Classic, you can't fish over there in that little cave in Ironforge. You got to go outside. So I did fish enough to learn get my cooking up a little bit. I didn't really go at it too crazy hard, but up to journeyman fishing. We've also been reading Lands of Mystery, and we finished off chapter 8, I want to say it was last time when we talked about the Scourge. Now we're going to continue with the final chapter in the book, and I think we might just bust it all out because this is called New Rules, and it says this chapter is more of an appendix. So stay a while and listen as we look at the new rules that they've added. We're just going to kind of skim through. Okay, so this first thing, there are some new prestige classes. There's the Buccaneers. So I kind of want to read the description. Maybe we'll read some of these notable Buccaneers. Satisfied to let the Scourge, the Burning Legion, and the Mortals fight for supremacy on the land, the Buccaneer is the unrivaled Lord of the Seas. A Buccaneer dominates the seas and becomes rich off the hapless ships that fall into his traps. Nursing hatred in his heart, the Buccaneer shows no mercy or consideration for any. He tyrannizes alliance and horde ships alike, gold being the same color to him no matter the race of the victim. The Buccaneer is highly skilled in sea combat, including but not limited to firearms and sailing. The appearance of a Buccaneer ship on the horizon can make the most seasoned captain's heart grow cold with panic. They're D10, which means they're tough. This is almost like a fighting style class. They can't be good, but they can be lawful, which is interesting. You got to take things like swim, tumble, sailor, and let's see, they don't get anything new from what they were. They get a bonus feat. They can intuit direction. They give prayers to the sea, and they have a drunken brawl power after they drink 2 drinks. So some examples of notable Buccaneers are Anna Bloodteeth, formerly of the Darkspear clan. Anna is a troll who never could accept the Horde's command to abandon cannibalism. Gross. She fled, hence the name Bloodteeth. She fled the Horde and commandeered a goblin merchant ship. She ate the captain in front of the terrified crew, and since then they've sailed under her command with the knowledge that she will eat any mutineers. One of the few successful solo pirate ships, she patrols the eastern coast of Kalimdor, robbing merchant ships and occasionally raiding Barrymore as a challenge. She eats the heart of every captain she kills, convinced that her victim's leadership power enters her this way. Her ship is the Beating Heart, and her flag depicts sharp teeth fastened to a heart. Okay, there's Unric Torque, captain of the Shattered Dagger. Unric is a goblin who is relatively new to the Blackwater Raiders, but has become a respected and feared member. He has an uncanny ability to judge weather and sea conditions, and once challenged one of the other captains of the Blackwater Raiders to a race. He did so on a day he could taste a storm on the air. The other captain got well ahead, pleased with his progress, until his ship was struck by lightning and sunk, burning. Some of the Blackwater Raiders believe he commands the weather to do his will. Small even for a goblin, Enric attacks the knees and tendons of his opponents, preferring to cripple them before dissecting them. And Quentin Bandor. Formerly a shrewd, ambitious student of architecture at Stormwind University, Quentin's ship to Lordaeron was commandeered by the Bloodsail Buccaneers. He watched the captain and the first mate killed in cold blood, and when the rest of the terrified passengers were dumped on an island west of Stormwind, he asked to join the pirates. They laughed at the student, and he offered to fight the first mate for the honor. He slew the Buccaneer with little fanfare, his bloodthirsty manner surprising even himself. 2 years later, he killed his own captain in his bunk. Now captain of the Seas Castle, Quentin's ship is the envy of other pirates as he applied his architectural know-how to modify his ship into a comfortable and terrifying war machine. And here's a picture of some of these people. They also have ship familiarity and a nose for treasure shrewdness. Basically, they're good at sensing motive and bluff, both sides of that coin. And they're skilled at deck fighting. They have swashbuckle as well. They're good at moving, tumbling around. And that actually, if they can use that tumbling skill to increase their damage and attack and dodge. So that's neat. Okay, there's the Holy Strider. Here we have a picture of what looks to be a benevolent Tauren. Maybe. The nomadic Tauren gave the world the first Holy Strider. Constantly on the move, the Tauren had to have reliable scouts to go far ahead and return swiftly. If they ran into trouble, they had to take care of themselves, either talking their way out of things, fighting their way out, or simply running and hiding. The Holy Strider tapped into the world's readily available energy and began harnessing that magic to aid their travels. Now, although the Tauren have their own well-fortified homeland and capital, the Holy Striders still find themselves in high demand as messengers, diplomats, spies, and explorers. Lanky and tall, nearly all Holy Striders carry minimal equipment, relying on nature, their own resourcefulness, and the kindness of strangers to aid them. So they're kind of like a sort of a hybrid roguey type class, as close as you can get as a Tauren. So here's a excuse me. It says they're well respected among the Horde. Karen Bloodhoof employs only Tauren. The Orcs have their own Holy Striders as well, and they record the farthest each has traveled. They have their own maps of Kalimdor based on their Holy Striders reports. And they commonly work alone because few can keep up with them. There's no centralized training center. And it requires people to have a never-ceasing curiosity. Interesting. Now, here are some of the notable Holy Striders. There's Perith Stormhoof. While he is not famous in Azeroth, the name of Perith Stormhoof is whispered with reverence among the Holy Striders. He's one of the oldest Holy Striders. Tauren whisper that he has visited both Northwind and Theramore without injury, and he has even seen the shattered remains of Draenor. Perith does not confirm or deny these rumors. He knows that they only strengthen the respect and therefore worth of the Holy Striders. He works only for Karen Bloodhoof and keeps many of his leaders' secrets, even secrets Thrall doesn't know. There's Nightwind. This troll has a shock of black hair shooting from the top of her head, swept back as though the wind is always in her face. Always grinning, she puts most people at ease when she first meets them, but her sharp mind takes in all details, and she's usually gone before anyone notices her pilfering through documents or questioning a simple-minded son of a powerful lord. The nice troll lady is loved no matter where she goes, which makes her one of the best spies in Orgrimmar, although she travels under the title of messenger. And Hregin Crackfist, one of Orgrimmar's few orc Holy Striders. Hregin is charged with the important task of mapping Kalimdor and its surrounding islands. He looks for new settlement sites, charts the monsters or alliance forces in the area, and makes sure Thrall's maps are correct. He returns to Orgrimmar every year and has a 3-day meeting alone with his leader to report his findings. Once he charts the entirety of Kalimdor, Thrall plans on sending him to chart Northrend to learn of the Lich King's activities. Okay. So what do they get? Okay, they have a skill called Creasing the World. What does that do? They have some powers. The first one is called Creasing the Road. That's their starting one, which basically gives them a meditative run that makes them walk much faster, and they're better at dodging while run, but they can't attack. Halfway through, they get Creasing the Mountain, which lets them move at normal speed up steep inclines. And she can take damage while climbing and not fall. And finally, Creasing the Sea is that they can run across water. That's pretty cool. Okay, they gain Shadow Meld, so basically a stealth invisibility type of thing. They have another power called Graceful Exit. It says basically at second level there's a +4 bonus to stealth and initiative, so just good at sneaking, regardless of whatever cuteness you want to call it. All eyes on me, so as you continue, they become Tupac. No, you gain some ability for diplomacy. Backpedal. Oh, it's a diplomacy. It's not physical backpedaling. All right, so literally all just movement spells. Okay, so they're just good at, and some negotiation. So that's kind of not fun for a fighting class. But if you legit just wanted someone to be able to move around a lot. And finally, the Techno... Actually, I don't know if this is finally. I think it's the final one. Techno Mage. For years, arcane magic users and tinkers looked on each other with disdain. Each group believed that its way of manipulating the world was superior. Mages have history on their side with 10,000 or more years of practice and clear proof of their power of both good and evil. Tinkers have the arrogance of the new kid on the block, showing how they can give the common man the power to fly through the skies or go under the sea, while previously only stuck-up mages were able to do those things. Not surprisingly, few enterprising arcanists pick up a wrench and see what they can do with it. The time, energy, and money it takes to make wondrous items compounded with the time, energy, and money it takes to make technological items makes imbuing technological items with magic highly impractical. Some do it, of course, and are considered eccentric and spendthrifts. Like she has rollerblades on. The mages rose as an answer to this problem. Instead of treating their inventions as mere items, they tended to view the object as extensions of themselves, using their will to enhance the item temporarily. As they commonly do this in battle, some consider them valuable warriors, others consider them insane. Views of the techno-mages are mixed, as tinkers and mages see the class as a perversion of their purity of their own respective paths, yet no one can deny the power these people wield. Maleficent's kind of like that. She's an engineer mage. So, in the House of the Arcane Contraption, I guess let's read this sidebar about them. While some technomages are solitary, about 20 years ago, several banded together to form a small group of like-minded individuals. Their numbers have grown incrementally since then, this group preferring neutrality. This group of technomages built a small fortress in the Barrens just south of Ashenvale, making it equal access for all races who wish to learn. They call this fortress, and by extension their organization, the House of the Arcane Contraption. Because most technomages are neutral, or so interested in meeting those of like minds they welcome any race into their ranks. Technomages of alliance or horde affiliation are not required to cast off their affiliations, but there is a strict code of truce in the House of the Arcane Contraption. Any racial or other issues are settled in a small arena in the courtyard, where the technomages battle using their magical inventions. Some battles can be fierce and bloody, the technomages actually going for the kill with invented weapons, but others are less heated, usually having the inventions battle each other. The House of the Arcane Contraption has remained impenetrable since its foundation. Since its founders, the Cabal of 5.3, built it 13 years before the Third War. Even the demonic fury that destroyed much of Ashenvale did not touch it. The technomages defended their fortress with such fury that even the demons left it alone, although others say the technomages put such a strong glamour, that's not how you spell that, on the fortress that the demons couldn't see it, and were less concerned with that smell of arcane magic than the power of the World Tree. Inside, a large courtyard littered with broken springs, bits of wiring, and soot marks from fireball blasts on the stone walls usually contains at least two technomages working on inventions considered too dangerous for the inside. The rooms inside are made of various materials, depending on what they're used for. The mages' rooms contain simple wooden walls and doors. The lower levels of the fortress, where most castles would have dungeons, are all workrooms. Although egos reign supreme in the house, the workrooms are public places. If a technomage wishes to create in his own room, he can, but many prefer the wider areas of the workroom, not to mention the stone walls that are less likely to burst into flame. The House of the Arcane Contraption is built on the side of a hill. The courtyard and front gate are opposite the hill, but through a door in the rear of the courtyard one can find the crypt. This is the final resting places for those who discovered the final answer. Technomages' bodies or body parts or ashes are interred here alongside plaques depicting the names of the deceased and their failed invention. If another technomage had picked up the invention to perfect it, his name is inscribed under the plaque. If he failed, then his remains lay beside the first technomages. All right, and here's the Cabal of, it says 53 here, but before it said 5.3, so I don't know which one it is. Probably Cabal of 53 makes more sense. It is 0.3. Grim One Arm. The 0.3 of the Cabal, Grim is a goblin who lost his right arm and leg in a rather impressive accident. He has prosthetic limbs that are made from metal, look exactly like flesh, and respond to his mind's commands. Few other than other technomages realize his limbs are not natural. Although he jokes he is only 0.3 of a member of the Cabal, he still carries a lot of weight in the House of the Arcane Contraption. When not sailing his merchant ship up and down the coast, secretly smuggling horde supplies to roguish alliance groups, who care not for the affiliation, enmity, and only want the goods, he spends his time at the house of the arcane contraption training new techno-mages. His merchant ship is called the Snarling Gribble Eel and is one of the fastest ships in the Eastern Sea. It runs on a complicated perpetual motion engine that is fueled by his will whenever he steps aboard. Fanala Bridkind is a human who fled Dalaran when the Scourge came. She stowed away on a goblin merchant ship and found herself in Ratchet. Feelings about arcanists being at a low, she apprenticed herself with a tinker and used subtle magic to aid her when her tinkering abilities proved insufficient. Soon she was melding the two skillfully and caught the attention of Grim One Arm. Her fireball-firing pistol, while being nearly as dangerous to the attacker as to her target, impressed him sufficiently to appoint her in charge of the weaponsmithing of the house. She has lost only 3 fingers to her art, but wears the scars like bandages and enjoys showing off the weapons that claimed her digits. She also keeps body parts of any undead she takes down with her weapons, displaying them proudly in her room. And Memengem, this foul-tempered orc techno-mage with a background in vehicles and warlock magic, scares the rest of the techno-mages. He works in the vehicle area of the dungeon, which is the deepest part. He claimed the large area as his own and built a tunnel leading from the deep level to the ground level. On more than one occasion, a failure has flown out of the hidden mouth of the tunnel, terrifying local wildlife. The burning hunk of metal usually reaches high in the air before crashing in an impressive display. He does not clean up his messes, and the other techno-mages call that area Mememgem's graveyard. Some scavenge for supplies there, but no one wants Mememgem to discover their pilfering, as the orc sometimes goes to the graveyard to mourn his children. This is one of the first things where you have to say, everything they're describing is this has to be non-canon. You never see anything like this, really, although you could, sure, the idea of these techno-mages kind of exists. This Cabal of 53, I don't think we see that, but we'll keep our eyes open, and if we do, we know that we read about it here first. Okay, so of course they get spell slots, and they continue to gain in spells. They have an Architect connection. I'm trying to see exactly what it does. They basically can use some weapons. So, for instance, they could use like a gun that can cure serious wounds or teleport. But of course, it could be like a fireball gun, Starfall. They have energy resistance. You probably pick a certain type. Architect control. Yeah, so basically, they have, just like they said, that guy has the control over his limbs. It's like a mental power over your technology. Architect bond. They're good at fixing their stuff and become the machine. So that's interesting. It looks like you can touch it and then basically create it and treat it sentient, like you can make it move around with perfection, like you are it. Okay, and finally there are some new feats. There's an ability focus, where you just get to choose on a specific special attack. Advanced steam armor operation, bug hunter, you're good at fighting like Silithid. Cold skin, immune to cold. This is a Northrend type of thing. Die hard, so you are still alive even if you go down to -9 hit points or whatever. Dowser, you're good at finding water. Epic summoning, so very demonology spec. Flyby attack, if you have to have a flying speed, so I guess I don't know who would have that. You need to find some kind of winged creatures. I mean, there are plenty non-player characters I can think of. And now, sure, Drakthir and Demon Hunters, but that doesn't exist when this book is being written. Hover, it's kind of like Flap that the druids can get. Numb ears. So basically, you are worse at listening, but you're strong against being deafened. Racer, so for like that Mirage Raceway adventure we read about, you'd be good at racing. Snowfoot, good about traveling through the snow. A lot of these are Northrend specific. Unstoppable, very good at resisting sudden death. That's not really as much of a thing anymore. Weapon spell channel, you can store spells in your weapon, use it kind of like a wand. That's cool. Wind ear, you can hear even in the heavy winds of certain areas, or like when you're flying. That's very niche. Wing over, you are good at flying basically if you're using mounted flying combat. All right, and we have a few magic items. Argent Dawn Insignia, you can add damage to your melee attacks from like holy damage. Crown of Potency makes you better at spells. Hellfire, a twisted metal greatsword that's unholy. It's a burning blade greatsword. Moonrage Ring lets you use greater moonfire. Ring of Frost lets you shoot Cone of Cold. Okay, there's some more stats on Steam armor. There's the XK77 armor, and they give you some stats on each one called a Slicer, Steam Fist. That's cool. And then they've added the new material, Nerubian Chitin. You could craft some things for that. And a few new spells. Continual Flame, Ever Wet. I guess that's be the counter of that. Skill Strip. Mass Skill Strip. Waterworks. Wave Send. And Wave Shout. I don't know why there's so much water-based magic coming out of this. Must be one of the classes that we read about in the beginning. We have done it. We have completely finished this book. Finally, that one took a long time. And as we go, since if they're not all, the ones that are in the voice of a lore type of thing, we'll read and take our time. But the ones that are mostly D&D rules, we'll skim through like we did here. So we're going to find out and look into it. So we'll do a little bit. The next mission, I think, we'll probably explore maybe Mulgore. That'll be our fourth capital to explore. So that will probably be the next episode we get to in a little bit. Today's the old Super Bowl day, so you probably won't hear from me again today as I spend the rest of the time hanging out, watching the Super Bowl, eating some munchies. But on my next episode, you'll get to see Mulgore, and then after that, we'll start the next book. Thank you, guys. This episode in the Pipe 5x5, I'm having a hard time with that lately. It's not like I haven't said it over 900 times. This one in the Pipe 5x5. Thank you for watching and for listening. And I'll see you next time on Lore of Warcraft.